The stars were quiet in the Telos system. They were always quiet before something terrible happened. Captain Kang Ti-ho stood on the bridge of the KSS Mugunghwa, watching the darkness of space through the main viewing screen. He was a man in his mid-50s with gray hair at his temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. His uniform was clean and pressed, as it always was. A captain must look like a captain, his father had told him long ago, even when the world is burning around you. The Mugunghwa was a Taegu-class battleship, one of the finest vessels in the Korean space fleet. She was not the biggest ship in the Earth Alliance Navy. She was not the fastest. But she was strong, built by engineers who understood that survival mattered more than looking impressive. Every system had a backup. Every backup had a backup. She was designed to take a beating and keep fighting. Today she was alone. Commander Yoon Hana walked up beside the captain. She was younger than him by 20 years, with sharp eyes and a mind that could calculate battle tactics faster than most computers. She had served under Ti-ho for 8 years, and she knew his moods better than anyone. "The mining colony reported the distress signal 10 minutes ago," she said. "Unknown vessels approaching from the outer rim." Ti-ho nodded slowly. "How many?" "They are still counting, sir." That was not a good answer. If the colony was still counting, it meant there were a lot of ships coming. Ti-ho felt a cold weight settle in his stomach, but his face showed nothing. A captain must never show fear. Lieutenant Park Jun looked up from the weapons console. He was the youngest officer on the bridge, barely 25 years old, but he could shoot a target from 300,000 kilometers away without missing. "Sir, I am getting readings now. Multiple energy signatures coming out of hyperspace." The main screen flickered and changed. Where there had been empty space, there were now ships, dozens of ships. They kept appearing, one after another, like insects crawling out of the darkness. 47 vessels, June said. His voice was steady, but Ti-ho could see his hands tighten on the console. "Configuration unknown. They do not match any species in our database." Hana leaned forward, studying the alien ships. They were strange and beautiful in a terrible way. Their hulls were smooth and curved, colored in shades of deep purple and black. They looked like the shells of sea creatures, but these creatures were built for war. Even the smallest of them was 3 times the size of the Mugunghwa. "The colony has 20,000 people," Hana said quietly. "Miners, families, children." "I know," Ti-ho replied. The communications console beeped. Ensign Cho Woo-jin, the youngest member of the bridge crew, looked up with wide eyes. He had been on the ship for only 3 months. This was supposed to be a simple patrol mission, his first real assignment. Nobody had told him he might die today. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the lead vessel." "Put it through." The screen changed again. The face that appeared was not human. It was longer, with gray skin that looked like wet stone. 4 eyes blinked in sequence, 2 on each side of a narrow head. The mouth was a lipless slit filled with small, sharp teeth. "I am High Admiral Chorus of the Velthari Dominion," the alien said. Its voice was translated by the ship's computer, but the arrogance needed no translation. "You are in space that now belongs to us. Your colony is now our property. Your ship is now our prize." Ti-ho said nothing. He simply watched. Chorus continued. "We have heard stories about your species. Humans, yes. Soft creatures, weak bodies. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons. We have conquered 12 star systems in the last 10 cycles. We have never lost a battle." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have 1 hour to surrender. Power down your weapons, open your cargo bays, and prepare to be boarded. If you do this, we will allow some of your kind to live as workers in our mines." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Hana looked at Ti-ho. "Sir, we cannot fight 47 ships. Even if we called for help right now, the nearest fleet is 4 hours away." "I know," Ti-ho said again. "We could try to run. The colony can evacuate to the deep mines. They might survive until help arrives." T-Ho shook his head. Those ships are faster than us. If we run, they will catch us. And if we leave, they will take the colony while we are gone. He looked at the alien fleet on the screen. They gave us 1 hour. They expect us to use that hour to be afraid, to argue among ourselves, to beg for mercy. He turned to face his crew. Every eye on the bridge was watching him. Some of them were afraid. That was okay. Fear was natural. What mattered was what you did with it. "We are not going to run," T-Ho said. "We are not going to beg. We are going to do what our people have always done when someone comes to take what is ours." Wujin swallowed hard. "What is that, sir?" T-Ho smiled. It was a small smile, tired but real. "We are going to make them regret ever finding us." He pressed the communication button. "All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. Men and women ran to their positions. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Beek Sumai heard the announcement and immediately began powering up the backup systems. She was a small woman with strong hands and oil stains on her uniform. She had kept this ship running for 15 years through storms, battles, and bureaucratic budget cuts. She was not going to let some alien fleet be the thing that finally broke her. On the bridge, T-Ho opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Hi, Admiral Chorus," he said. His voice was calm and clear. "This is Captain Kang T-Ho of the Korean spaceship Mugunghwa. I have received your offer of surrender." He paused. "We do not surrender." He ended the transmission. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, on the Velthari flagship, something strange occurred. A young officer named Mora looked at her sensor display and felt the first touch of unease. "Admiral," she said slowly, "the human ship is not powering down." Chorus barely glanced at her. "Of course not. They have an hour. They will spend it crying and praying to whatever gods they believe in." "No, Admiral, I mean, they are powering up. Their weapons are charging. Their engines are increasing output. Their shields are coming online." Chorus turned to look at her. "What?" Mora checked her readings again. She was young for her position, but she had studied many species. She had never seen readings like these. The human ship's energy signature was growing stronger and stronger. It was not preparing to flee or surrender. It was preparing to fight. "They are aiming their weapons at us," she said. "All of them." Chorus stared at the screen where the tiny human ship hung in space, facing his entire armada alone. "One ship," he said. "One ship against 47. They cannot possibly think they can win." Mara looked at the readings again. Something cold moved through her chest. It took her a moment to recognize the feeling. It was fear. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I do not think they care about winning." Chorus did not understand what she meant. He would learn soon enough. They all would. The hour was counting down, and the Mugunghwa was preparing for war. Deep in the belly of the ship, Chief Engineer Beek Sumai moved through the engine room like a general inspecting her troops. The massive power cores hummed around her, filling the air with a low vibration that she felt in her bones. She had spent half her life with these engines. She knew every sound they made, every temperature they liked, every trick to squeeze a little more power out of them when power was needed most. "Main reactors are at full capacity," her assistant reported. "Backup systems are online. Emergency power cells are charged." Sumai nodded. "Good, now charge them again." Her assistant looked confused. "But they are already at 100%. "Then make them 110%. I want every drop of power we can get." She wiped her hands on her uniform, leaving fresh oil stains over the old ones. "Those aliens up there think they know what this ship can do. They are wrong. Let us show them what Korean engineering really looks like." On the bridge, Commander Yoon Hana was running tactical simulations on her console. None of them ended well. In the best-case scenario, the Mugunghwa destroyed 8 enemy ships before being torn apart. In the worst case, they lasted 4 minutes. She ran the numbers again and again, looking for something she might have missed. Captain Kang Tiho watched her work. How bad? Hana did not lie to him. She never lied to him. Very bad. Their weapons are stronger than ours. Their shields are thicker, and there are 47 of them. But, she looked up at him. But they have never fought humans before. They do not know how we move. They do not know how we think. Their formations are perfect, which means they are predictable, and they are arrogant. Arrogance makes people stupid. Tiho almost smiled. So we have a chance. We have a very small chance to survive for a very long time. Long enough for reinforcements to arrive, maybe. She shook her head. It is not a good chance, but it is a chance. That is enough, Tiho said. It has to be enough. Lieutenant Park Jun was at the weapons console, checking every gun on the ship one by one. His grandmother had been a soldier in the old days, back when Korea was still divided, back when enemies came not from the stars but from across a line on a map. She had told him stories when he was young, stories about holding positions against impossible odds, stories about soldiers who knew they were going to die but fought anyway, because that was what soldiers did. She said the secret is not about being strong, he muttered to himself, fingers flying over the controls. The secret is about being stubborn. What? Asked Ensign Woo-jin, who was standing nearby. Jun looked at the younger man. Woo-jin was pale and his hands were shaking slightly. He was trying to hide it, but he was failing. Are you scared? Jun asked. Woo-jin hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Good, fear keeps you alive. But right now, I need you to put the fear in a box and close the lid. Can you do that? I think so. Do not think, do. Jun turned back to his console. We have work to do. Far across the void of space, on the Velthari flagship, Sub-Commander Delith was having doubts. She was older than most of the crew, with scars on her gray skin from battles long past. She had not risen to her position by being stupid. Something about this situation felt wrong. The human ship should have been trying to escape. It should have been sending desperate messages to its government. It should have been doing something other than sitting there, weapons powered up, waiting. She pulled up the intelligence files on humans. They were thin. The Velthari Dominion had never encountered this species directly. All they had were reports from other races, traders and refugees who had met humans in their travels. She began to read. Humans evolved on a planet with extreme conditions, the first report said. They survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions. They are adaptable and persistent. Delith kept reading. Humans have been waging war against each other for their entire history. They have never known a generation without conflict. Their military technology advances extremely fast, driven by constant competition. Her four eyes narrowed. Warning: humans do not surrender easily. There are documented cases of individual humans continuing to fight for years after their side lost a war. They have a cultural concept called last stand, where warriors choose death over retreat. This is considered honorable in their society. The reports went on. Stories of human ships ramming enemy vessels when their weapons failed. Stories of human soldiers fighting hand-to-hand against enemies twice their size. Stories of a species that seemed to view death not as something to be avoided, but as something to be faced with dignity. Delith closed the files and walked to the command deck. High Admiral Chorus was there, watching the human ship on the main screen with a look of amusement on his face. Admiral, Delith said, I have been reading about the humans. Why bother? They will be dead or enslaved within the hour. That is what concerns me. She stood beside him, lowering her voice so only he could hear. Every species we have conquered ran when they saw our fleet. The ones who did not run tried to negotiate, but the humans are doing neither. They are preparing to fight. Chorus made a dismissive sound. Foolish bravery, they will learn. Admiral, their history is filled with wars, long wars. Their conflicts last for generations. They have a concept of fighting not to win, but to make winning so expensive that the enemy gives up. They call it attrition. Ridiculous. War is about victory, not about who can bleed the longest. Delith looked at the human ship on the screen. It was so small compared to their fleet, so fragile, and yet it sat there like a stone in a river, unmoved by the current around it. "I think," she said slowly, "that the humans see it differently." Chorus waved his hand. "Enough, the hour is almost up, soon we will have our answer." On the Mugunghwa, Captain Tiho called his senior officers together. They gathered around the tactical table in the center of the bridge. Hana was there, and June, and Sumai, who had come up from engineering. Even young Wu Jin stood at the edge, listening. "Let me be clear about our situation," Tiho said. "We cannot win this fight, not in the traditional sense. Our job is not to destroy that fleet. Our job is to survive long enough for help to arrive." "How long?" Sumai asked. "The nearest friendly fleet is 4 hours away. I have already sent a distress call. They are coming as fast as they can." 4 hours. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. "Here is what we know," Tiho continued. "The enemy fleet is large, but it is designed to fight other large fleets. They expect formations, patterns, predictable movement. They do not expect a single ship to be a threat." Hana nodded. "Their formation is tight. If we can create chaos, we can slow them down. Disabled ships become obstacles. Explosions create sensor interference." "Exactly." Tiho looked at each of them in turn. "We are not going to fight like a battleship. We are going to fight like a hornet. Fast, vicious, impossible to pin down. We sting them and move. We hit them where they do not expect. We make them afraid of what they cannot predict." June spoke up, "And if we get hit?" "We will get hit, many times. That is why Sumai is going to keep this ship running no matter what happens." He looked at the engineer. "Can you do that?" Sumai's face was calm. "This ship and I have been through a lot together. A few aliens are not going to be the end of us." Tiho turned to Wu Jin. "Ensign, I need you to send one more message to the Alliance fleet. Tell them exactly what is happening here. Tell them how many ships we are facing. And tell them," he paused, "tell them we are going to hold the line, no matter what." Wu Jin swallowed hard, but his voice was steady. "Yes, sir." The countdown clock on the main screen reached 0. "All hands," Tiho announced to the entire ship. "This is the captain. The enemy has given us their deadline. Our answer is the same as before. We do not surrender. We do not run. We are Korean. We are human. And today we show the galaxy what that means." He took his seat in the captain's chair. "Helm evasive pattern Delta. Weapons target their lead frigate. Let us introduce ourselves." The Mugunghwa surged forward just as the first enemy weapons began to fire. The space around them turned to fire and light. The battle had begun. The first volley from the Velthari fleet should have ended everything. 47 ships fired at once. The space where the Mugunghwa floated became a storm of energy beams and plasma bolts. Any normal ship would have been vaporized in seconds. But the Mugunghwa was not there anymore. The moment the enemy weapons fired, Captain Tiho gave the order. The ship executed a maneuver that the Velthari had never seen before. It rolled sideways while simultaneously diving down and accelerating forward. The engine screamed with the effort. The hull groaned. But the ship moved, and the wall of death passed through empty space. On the Velthari flagship, Analyst Mora stared at her screen in disbelief. "Impossible," she whispered. "That should not be possible." High Admiral Chorus saw it too. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "What are they doing?" Before anyone could answer, the Mugunghwa fired back. Lieutenant Park Jun had been waiting for this moment. His fingers danced across the weapon's console like a musician playing a familiar song. The ship's main gun spoke, and 3 beams of concentrated energy lanced across the void. He did not aim to destroy. Not yet, he aimed to cripple. Two Velthari frigates suddenly lost power. Their engines died. Their weapons went silent. They began to drift, carried by their own momentum, spinning slowly into the paths of their own allies. Two targets disabled, June reported. Minimal casualties to enemy crew, maximum chaos to their formation. Hana watched the enemy fleet scramble to adjust. It is working. They are trying to avoid their own ships. Their firing solutions are disrupted. Tiho nodded. Keep moving. Do not give them time to think. The Mugunghwa dove into the heart of the enemy fleet like a wolf among sheep. It was madness. It was suicide. It was exactly what the Velthari had not expected. The alien ships were designed to fight at a distance. Their weapons were optimized for long-range bombardment. Their formations assumed that enemies would try to stay back and trade shots. Nobody in their history had ever been crazy enough to charge straight into the middle of 47 warships. But humans were exactly that kind of crazy. The Mugunghwa twisted and spun, using the enemy's own ships as cover. When a Velthari cruiser tried to get a targeting lock, the human ship ducked behind another enemy vessel. When three destroyers coordinated their fire, the Mugunghwa was already gone, leaving the destroyers to nearly hit each other. And all the while June kept firing. Not wildly, not desperately, but with cold precision. Engine cores, weapons arrays, sensor clusters. Each shot was chosen to create maximum disruption with minimum energy. Down in engineering, Sumai was fighting her own battle. The ship shook constantly as near misses brushed against the shields. Warning lights flashed on every console. Power fluctuations ran through the system like waves. Reroute power from sections 15 through 20, she ordered. Nobody is there anyway. Send it all to the shields. But those sections have the backup oxygen recyclers. An engineer protested. We will worry about oxygen when we are not being shot at. Do it. The first direct hit came 8 minutes into the battle. A Velthari beam caught the Mugunghwa on the port side, burning through the outer hull and into Deck 7. Alarms screamed. Fire suppression systems activated automatically. The damage report came in. 12 crew members dead, 20 more injured. Tiho felt each death like a weight on his shoulders, but he could not stop. Not now. Seal the damaged sections. Medical teams to Deck 7. Helm, continue evasive pattern. The hits kept coming. No matter how well they dodged, they could not avoid everything. The enemy had too many ships, too many guns. The Mugunghwa began to accumulate wounds like a boxer in a fight that was going too long. Hull breach on Deck 12. Fire in the ammunition storage. One of the secondary batteries exploded, killing everyone in the compartment. The ship's armor, once shining and strong, was now scarred and melted. But still the ship fought. On the Velthari flagship, High Admiral Chorus was no longer smiling. 20 minutes had passed. He had expected this to be over in 5. Instead, his tactical display showed a spreading field of disabled vessels, drifting wreckage and rescue beacons. How many ships have we lost? He demanded. Delith checked the numbers. 4 destroyed, 8 disabled, at least 3 more with heavy damage. 15 ships. Chorus could not believe it. 15 ships to 1 enemy. They are not fighting like any species we have encountered, Delith said. They are using our own formation against us. Every time we try to coordinate, they disrupt us. Every time we concentrate fire, they use our ships as shields. Mora spoke up from her station. Admiral, I am detecting something else. The human ship has taken significant damage, multiple hull breaches. Their port engine is running at 60%. Their shield strength is down to 40%. Finally, order all ships to concentrate fire. Finish them. Yes, Admiral, but sir, Mora hesitated. Sir, they are still attacking. Their main gun is still firing. According to my readings, that gun is now exposed to vacuum. The compartment around it has no atmosphere. Then how are they firing it? The crew is operating it manually. in emergency suits, in open space. Mora's voice shook slightly. Admiral, they know they are dying, and they are still fighting. The battle continued. June's console sparked and smoked. One of the targeting computers had failed. He did not hesitate. He switched to manual aiming, using his own eyes and instincts to guide the weapons. It was harder, slower, but it worked. Hana's uniform was torn and blood-stained. She had been thrown from her station when a hit rocked the bridge. She had climbed back up and kept working. Now she called out enemy movements, predicting their patterns, finding weaknesses in their coordination. Wu Jin had stopped being afraid somewhere around the 20th minute. There was no room for fear anymore. There was only the job: keep communications running, keep the crew connected, keep fighting. Sumai in engineering was performing miracles with broken equipment and dying systems. She had rerouted power so many times that she was not sure which systems were even supposed to be working anymore. But the engines kept running. The guns kept firing. That was all that mattered. And in the captain's chair, Tiho sat like a statue, watching everything, directing everything, refusing to show the exhaustion that was eating him from the inside. They had been fighting for 90 minutes. The Mugunghwa had destroyed or disabled 12 Velthari ships, one vessel against an armada, and the armada was bleeding. But so was the Mugunghwa. "Captain," Hana said quietly, "the port engine is failing. We are losing maneuverability." As if to prove her point, the ship shuddered violently. On the status display, the port engine icon went from yellow to red to black. "We can still move," Tiho said. "One engine is enough." "Barely. They will be able to catch us now. We cannot dodge like before." Tiho looked at the tactical display. The remaining Velthari ships were pulling back, reorganizing. They had learned to respect the little human vessel that had hurt them so badly. Now they were going to finish it properly. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" Wu Jin checked his console. 2 hours, 32 minutes, sir." 2.5 hours. With one engine, failing shields, and half the weapons destroyed. It seemed impossible. Tiho stood up slowly. His body ached. His heart was heavy with the names of the dead, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "All hands, this is the captain. We have held them for 90 minutes. We have made them bleed. Now comes the hard part." He paused. "I am not going to lie to you. Our situation is bad, but help is coming. All we have to do is survive a little longer. Every minute we hold on is a minute closer to victory. Every shot we fire is a shot for the people we are protecting." He looked around the bridge at his battered, exhausted crew. "I have never served with finer people. Now let us show these aliens what we are made of. Reroute all remaining power to weapons and life support. If we are going to die, we will die facing them, and we will take as many of them with us as we can." The crew responded with a determination that went beyond words. They had already given everything. Now they would give more. The Mugunghwa turned to face the regrouping enemy fleet. One engine, failing shields, half the crew dead or wounded, and still, impossibly, its guns pointed at the enemy. High Admiral Chorus watched the human ship on his screen. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he did not recognize. It was respect. He pushed it aside. Respect did not win battles. He gave the order to attack. The storm resumed. 3 hours into the battle, the Mugunghwa was dying. The ship that had once been sleek and proud now looked like a wounded animal. Great scars ran across its hull where enemy weapons had burned through metal and armor. Entire sections were open to the void, their atmosphere long since vented into space. The port engine was dead. The starboard engine was running on emergency power only. Half the weapons were destroyed or offline. But the ship was still fighting. On the bridge, Captain Tiho stood because the captain's chair had been destroyed an hour ago. Blood ran down the side of his face from a wound he did not remember receiving. His uniform was torn and burned, but his eyes were still sharp, still watching, still commanding. "Status report," he said. His voice was hoarse from shouting orders over the sound of explosions. Commander Hana pulled herself up from the floor. Her left arm hung at an angle that was not natural. She had refused to go to medical. There was no point. Medical was gone, destroyed in the last attack. The doctors were dead or treating wounded in the corridors. "We have lost decks 4 through 14, she reported. "Main power is at 18%. Shields are gone. We have 3 operational weapons remaining." "And the crew?" Hana's face was pale, but her voice did not shake. "Of 847 crew members, we have 263 confirmed alive. Many more are unaccounted for. Nearly 600 people, gone in 3 hours. Tiho felt the weight of each soul. He would carry them forever. But right now, he had to think about the 263 who were still breathing. How long until reinforcements? Lieutenant June answered from his damaged console. 53 minutes, Captain." 53 minutes. It might as well have been 53 years. The ship could barely move. The remaining weapons were overheating. Every system was failing. And yet, nobody suggested surrender. Across the battlefield, on the Velthari flagship, something unprecedented was happening. High Admiral Chorus had ordered his remaining ships to move in for the final kill, but the ships were not moving, not all of them anyway. "Why are they not advancing?" Chorus demanded. Subcommander Delith stood silent for a moment before answering. "Because they are afraid, Admiral." "Afraid? We have 32 ships remaining. The enemy has 1 and it is barely functioning." "Yes, Admiral, and that 1 ship has destroyed 15 of our vessels. 15, in 3 hours. Delith's voice was quiet but firm. "The crews are watching. They have seen what happens to ships that get close to the humans. They have seen their friends die, and they are asking themselves a question." "What question?" "They are asking if victory is worth the cost." Cora stared at her. "This is madness. We will win this battle. There is no question of that." "Will we? Look at the numbers, Admiral. If that 1 ship can kill 15 of ours before we destroy it, what happens when we meet their full fleet? What happens when we face 100 ships like that? 1,000? Delith shook her head. "The humans are not fighting to win. They are fighting to teach us a lesson, and I think we are learning it." On another part of the flagship, Analyst Mora was doing something she had never done before. She was crying. She had watched the battle unfold on her screens for 3 hours. She had tracked every shot, every explosion, every death. And somewhere along the way, her analysis had turned into something else. Something that felt like horror and wonder mixed together. The human ship was still transmitting. Its communication systems were damaged but not dead. She could hear fragments of their internal chatter, orders being given, reports being made, wounded calling for help, and underneath it all, a quiet determination that made no sense to her. These people knew they were dying. They had known it from the beginning, and they had chosen to die anyway, not for glory, not for conquest, but to protect a mining colony full of strangers. Mora had studied 100 species. She had seen warriors and cowards, empires and rebels, but she had never seen anything like this. The humans were not special because they were strong. They were special because they refused to accept weakness as an excuse. "I understand now," she whispered to herself. "I understand what they are." Back on the Mugunghwa, the situation was growing desperate. The 3 remaining weapons were firing in rotation, trying not to overheat. The single engine was pushing the ship in slow, painful circles, making it harder for the enemy to land killing blows. But it was not enough. It would never be enough. Ensign Wu Jin was still at his station. The communication console was half melted, but he had jury-rigged it with parts from other systems. His hands were burned and his eyes were red from smoke, but he was still working. "Captain," he said suddenly, "I am receiving a signal." "From the enemy." "No, sir, from behind them, from..." His voice cracked. "From our fleet, sir, they are 30 minutes out. They push their engines past the limit. They are coming." T-Ho closed his eyes for a moment. 30 minutes. Just 30 more minutes. "Tell them thank you," he said. "Tell them we will be here when they arrive." He turned to the bridge crew. Most of them were wounded. Some were barely standing. But they were all still at their posts, still doing their jobs. "You heard him, 30 minutes. That is all we need. 30 minutes and then our people will be here." Hana looked at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was still out there, circling like predators around wounded prey. "They could finish us before then, if they all attack at once." "They could," T-Ho agreed, "but they will not." "How do you know?" "Because they are afraid now." He pointed at the display. "Look at them. They are keeping their distance. They have learned that getting close to us costs lives. Every captain out there is doing the math. They are asking if being the one who kills us is worth the risk of dying in the attempt." He was right. The Velthari fleet was hesitating. Ships moved forward, then pulled back. Weapons charged, then powered down. The crews were uncertain, confused. They had never faced an enemy like this. On the flagship, Chorus was screaming at his captains. "Attack! Finish them! It is one ship, one ship!" But the captains were not responding. Some of them were simply turning off their communication systems. Others made excuses about damaged weapons or engine problems. A few spoke the truth. They were not willing to die to satisfy the Admiral's pride. Delith stepped forward. "Admiral, I am receiving a message from the human vessel." "What do they want? To surrender?" "No, Admiral, they want to talk." Chorus hesitated, then nodded. "Put it through." Captain T-Ho's face appeared on the screen. He looked terrible. Blood and soot covered his features. His uniform was almost unrecognizable, but his eyes were steady and calm. "Hi, Admiral Chorus," he said. 3 hours ago you gave me 1 hour to surrender. I refused. Now I am giving you 1 hour to leave this system." Chorus laughed, but the sound was hollow. "You are dying. Your ship is destroyed. What threat can you possibly make?" "Not a threat, a promise." T-Ho leaned forward. "In 30 minutes an Earth Alliance fleet will arrive here. 23 ships, including 2 dreadnoughts. When they come, they will not offer you surrender. They will not give you time to think. They will destroy every ship in your fleet without hesitation, because you attacked their people, because you killed their friends, and humans do not forgive that." He paused. "You have 1 hour. Run now and some of you might survive. Stay and you will all die, not because you are weak, but because you made us angry." The transmission ended. Chorus stood frozen. For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Delith broke the silence. "Admiral, our sensors confirm an incoming fleet. 23 vessels, including 2 capital ships. ETA 31 minutes. "We can still win," Chorus said, but even he did not believe it. "Can we? We have lost half our fleet to 1 ship. 1 damaged, dying ship. What will happen when we face 23 fresh ones?" Delith shook her head. "This is not defeat, Admiral. This is survival. We can leave now and fight another day, or we can stay and die for pride." Chorus looked at the screen. The crippled human ship hung there, still pointing its remaining weapons at them, still defiant, still refusing to break. He had come here expecting an easy conquest. Instead, he had found something he had never encountered before, an enemy that was willing to pay any price to make him bleed. "All ships," he said finally, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "Begin retreat. Jump to hyperspace as soon as drives are ready." On the Mugunghwa, Wu Jin looked up from his console. "Captain, the enemy fleet is powering up their jump drives. They are leaving." T-Ho said nothing for a moment. Then he sank slowly to the floor, his back against a destroyed console. Around him, the crew began to cheer weakly. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some could not do either. Hana crouched beside him. "We did it, Captain. We held the line." T-Ho looked at her with eyes that were suddenly very tired. "No, Our people held the line. I just told them where to stand." He looked around at the ruined bridge, at the wounded crew, at the blood and fire and destruction. The price had been terrible. Nearly 600 lives. Good people, brave people, gone forever. But the colony was safe. The enemy was running, and help was coming. It was enough. It had to be enough. "Tell the crew," Tiho said softly. "Tell them. Tell them I am proud. Tell them their families will know what they did today. Tell them history will remember this moment." The reinforcements arrived 29 minutes later. By then, the last enemy ship had vanished into hyperspace. The Mugunghwa was still there, broken but undefeated, a monument to human stubbornness floating among the wreckage of its enemies. The battle was over. But the story was just beginning. The Earth Alliance fleet came out of hyperspace like thunder, rolling across a silent sky. Admiral Song Yunbai stood on the bridge of the EAS Dokdo, the flagship of the relief force. She was a small woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen decades of service. When she looked at the tactical display, those eyes went wide. The Mugunghwa was still there. Somehow, impossibly, the ship was still floating, but it barely looked like a ship anymore. It looked like a skeleton, a ghost of metal and fire. Sections of hull were missing entirely. Fires still burned in compartments that somehow still had oxygen. Emergency lights flickered weakly across the scarred surface. Around the human vessel, the debris of battle spread across thousands of kilometers. Destroyed Velthari ships, drifting escape pods, clouds of metal and frozen atmosphere. And among it all, rescue beacons blinked steadily, crying out for help. "Contact the Mugunghwa," Yunbai ordered. "Now." The communication officer worked quickly. For a moment there was only static. Then a voice came through, weak and tired but unmistakably human. This is Captain Kang Tiho of the KSS Mugunghwa. "We are still here, Admiral, still holding the line." Yunbai felt tears sting her eyes, but she kept her voice steady. "Rest now, Captain. We will take it from here." She turned to her fleet. "All ships spread out. Search pattern Alpha. I want every survivor found and rescued, every single one." The fleet moved like a well-trained machine. Medical ships rushed toward the Mugunghwa. Rescue craft fanned out to collect survivors from both sides. The dreadnought EAS Gwangido took position between the wounded battleship and the direction of the enemy retreat, just in case. But the enemy was not coming back. The surviving Velthari ships had fled, and they were still fleeing. Their jump drives were pushing them as far and as fast as possible from the nightmare they had encountered. On his damaged flagship, High Admiral Chorus sat alone in his command chair. His fleet was broken. His reputation was ruined. He had led 47 ships against a single enemy vessel, and that vessel had destroyed a third of his forces before reinforcements even arrived. Sub-Commander Delith entered quietly. "Admiral, we have cleared the system. All surviving ships are accounted for." "How many?" 32 ships escaped. Of those, 11 have significant damage. We lost 15 vessels, over 4,000 crew members dead or missing. Delith paused. "To one ship." Chorus said nothing for a long time. Then he spoke in a voice that sounded very old. "I have commanded fleets for 40 years. I have conquered a dozen star systems. I have never lost a battle." "You still won technically. Their ship was destroyed. We achieved our tactical objective." "Did we?" Chorus turned to look at her. "We came here for a mining colony. We leave with nothing except our surviving ships and the memory of what happened today. The colony is still human. Our enemies are still standing. And we," he shook his head, "we are running." Delith had no answer for that. In the weeks that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. Other species heard about it first through whispers and rumors. A single human ship had held off an entire Velthari armada for over 3 hours. The crew had fought when they were outgunned, outmanned, and outmatched. They had fought when their ship was dying around them. They had fought until reinforcements arrived, and then they had kept fighting until the enemy was gone. The numbers were staggering: one ship against 47, nearly 600 human crew dead, 15 Velthari ships destroyed or disabled, and at the end of it all the humans had not just survived, they had won. For the species that had been conquered by the Velthari, the story was like a light in the darkness. They began to whisper among themselves, if the humans could do this, maybe freedom was possible, maybe resistance was not futile, maybe there was hope. For the Velthari themselves, the story was a wound that would not heal. Their confidence had been built on centuries of easy victories. Now that confidence was shattered. Captains who had once been eager for battle now found excuses to avoid patrol routes near human space. Politicians who had talked about expansion began talking about consolidation instead. 6 months after the Battle of Telos, Commander Mora stood before the Velthari High Council. She was no longer an analyst. Her performance during the battle, her accurate assessments and clear thinking, had earned her a promotion and a new role. Now she was the official voice of the intelligence service, responsible for explaining to the rulers of the Dominion exactly what they faced. The council chamber was vast and ancient, built from stone that had stood for thousands of years. The councilors sat in a circle, their gray faces watching Mora with a mixture of impatience and fear. "Tell us," the first speaker said, "what you have learned about these humans." Mora took a breath. "In the 6 months since the Battle of Telos, we have received 17 formal requests from other species seeking alliance with the Earth Alliance. 12 of these species are ones we previously conquered. They are asking the humans to liberate them." Murmurs ran through the council. "Furthermore," Mora continued, "our own military has experienced a significant decline in recruitment. Young Velthari are no longer eager to join the fleet. When asked why, many of them cite the Battle of Telos. They have watched the recordings. They have seen what happened to our ships." "Recordings?" a counselor demanded. "What recordings?" "The humans released full sensor data from the battle, every moment, every exchange. They did not try to hide their losses or exaggerate their victories. They simply showed the galaxy what happened." Mora paused. It was more effective than any propaganda. The truth was terrifying enough. The first speaker leaned forward. "What do you recommend, Commander?" Mora had prepared for this question. She had thought about it every day since the battle. She had reviewed every piece of data, every report, every analysis, and she had come to a conclusion that she knew they would not like. "Do not fight the humans," she said. "Do not threaten them. Do not give them a reason to remember your name." Silence filled the chamber. "The humans have a saying," Mora continued. "It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. I did not understand this before. I do now. The humans are not dangerous because they are strong. They are dangerous because they never stop. They never give up. They never forget." She looked around at the council, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. "If you fight them, they will bleed you. If you hurt them, they will hurt you back. And if you try to destroy them, they will make sure that you suffer for every life you take. The cost of war with humanity is not measured in ships or resources. It is measured in centuries of grief." The first speaker was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question that everyone wanted answered. "What would you have us do?" "Make peace," Mora said, "before they make you regret not doing so." Far away on a planet called Earth, Captain Kang Tiho stood before a wall. It was not a large wall, just a simple memorial in a garden with names carved into black stone. 584 names. His crew, his family, the people who had died under his command in the Battle of Telos. It had taken him 3 months to recover from his wounds. The doctors had told him he was lucky to be alive. He did not feel lucky. He felt old and tired and heavy with the weight of the dead. Commander Yoon Hana walked up beside him. She was alive, too. So was Lieutenant Jun and Chief Engineer Su Mai and Ensign Wu Jin. 263 survivors out of 847 crew. Some days it felt like a miracle. Other days it felt like a curse. "The ceremony is about to start," Hana said quietly. "The president is here, and representatives from 20 different species." T-Ho nodded but did not move. His fingers traced one of the names on the wall. Ensign Kim Da-yoon. She had been 22 years old. She had wanted to be a captain someday. Was it worth it? Hana asked. It was the question she had been carrying for 6 months, never speaking it until now. T-Ho was silent for a long time. He thought about the battle. He thought about the fear and the fire and the endless hours of watching his people die. He thought about the enemy fleet running away. He thought about the messages they had received from other species, asking for help, asking for hope. Finally, he answered. Ask the 20,000 colonists who are still alive. Ask the ships that will never have to fight this battle because we already did. Ask the species who are now reaching out to humanity because they saw us stand against the darkness. He turned to face her. His eyes were wet, but his voice was steady. We paid a terrible price. We will carry that price forever, but we held the line. And because we held the line, others know that they can hold it too. That is what humans do, Hana. We stand when others run. We fight when others surrender. We die so that others can live. He looked back at the wall one more time. That is the choice we made, and I would make it again. Hana nodded slowly. There were tears on her face, but she was smiling. Then let us go tell the galaxy what we stand for. They walked away from the wall together, toward the ceremony where the world was waiting. Behind them, the names of the dead watched in silence, carved in stone but not forgotten. Never forgotten. The Battle of Telos would be remembered for centuries. It would be studied in military academies across 100 worlds. It would be the subject of songs and stories and legends. But for those who had been there, who had lived through those terrible hours, it was something simpler. It was the moment when the galaxy learned what humans were willing to sacrifice. And it was the moment when the Velthari Dominion realized that some prices are too high to pay. The line had been held. The story was complete.